Joining us now is Republican Majority Whip, Congressman Tom Emmer of the great state of Minnesota. Congressman, thanks so much for being here. So you were with the president at the Justice Department. I want to play something he said in his speech about criticizing judges and the courts. Take a listen.
A lot of the judges that I had, if you look at them, they take tremendous abuse in the news. And it's truly interference, in my opinion, and it should be illegal, and it probably is illegal in some form.
Well, do you think it should be illegal to criticize a judge? And also, I recall President Trump being pretty critical of a couple judges in New York. I mean, wouldn't it apply to him?
Well, Jake, I was at his speech today, and I thought the reporting you're hearing is not at all what I heard. I heard a president who said we're going to get the Department of Justice back to the business of apprehending, prosecuting, and making sure that we have a rule of law in this country. Introduced Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, and I even saw Leo Terrell was there. And Leo, of course, is doing some great work for the Justice Department, investigating anti-Semitism on college campuses, including my own University of Minnesota. But as far as the judges, he was talking about intimidation of judges by others outside, or the lawyers are intimidating judges. I think that's the point he was making, and it was well received by most of the people there.
Let me ask you, because you just brought it up, the investigation of anti-Semitism on college campuses. Obviously, all forms of bigotry are horrible and shouldn't be tolerated. But where does free speech end and bigotry that could be illegal begin? Because obviously that has been an age-old dilemma and debate in the United States.
It's not that age-old when someone is calling for violence on someone else. At the University of Minnesota more than a year ago, there was a protesting group that they have the right to protest until they start calling for violence on Jewish students at the University of Minnesota campus. We even had a representative from Minnesota go and support the group that was advocating.
Ilhan Omar?
Yes, she was supporting the group that was advocating.
How did they call for violence? Was it from the river to the sea chant?
No, it was more than that. It was very confrontational. It was, you got to deal with these Jewish students. It was the Jewish issue. Basically, they support what Hamas did to the state of Israel and those innocent people. That's not appropriate anywhere, and that's not free speech, Jake, when you're calling for violence on someone else.
Well, again, I mean, look, I'm Jewish. I don't like hearing calls for violence against Jews anywhere. But if you are saying Hamas is a liberation group, is a resistance group, and you're trying to argue that October 7th is justified, now that offends me personally. Should it be illegal?
That's not what we're talking about.
Okay.
It's when you're advocating for violence against students based on their faith. That's what's been done, and that's what's being investigated. That should never be tolerated. That's not free speech. That's just wrong.
Calls for violence, obviously, should not be legal. House Republicans notched a big victory this week when it came to the funding bill. Your party still faces a big hurdle passing the president's legislative agenda writ large. The House and Senate still haven't reached a consensus on how to do it. House Republicans and Senate Republicans. Politico quotes Speaker Johnson saying, quote, "This is going to be the heavy lift." And Senate Republican Josh Hawley says, quote, "I am worried about it." So I guess the question is, President Trump wants one big, beautiful bill. There's also a question about splitting up some of the legislation into two bills. What do you think? Where is this going to go?
Well, I think we're going to be writing one bill. I think the fact that the House passed the budget resolution made that very clear. And what you're talking about is now, in the next couple of weeks, there needs to be an agreement between the House and the Senate on what an identical budget resolution looks like. And then we're going to go pass the darn bill. And the way I look at it is, everybody said we weren't going to be able to do the budget resolution. Everybody said we weren't going to be able to do the CR. You know what, Jake? We just keep doing the things that everybody says we can't do, and we're going to continue to do that. We will enact Donald Trump's agenda.
So let me ask you a question. The New York Times wrote a story about Republicans, quote, enthusiastically turning over congressional powers, Article 1 powers, to the White House. Massachusetts Congressman Richard Neal, a top Democrat on Ways and Means, says, quote, "They," meaning you, House Republicans, "are abdicating their most important constitutional obligation, oversight over the executive branch on trade. Republicans have unequivocally showed us who they are, cowards who kowtow to the president on everything, including the economy," unquote. What is your response to Congressman Richie Neal?
Well, I disagree with Representative Neal's analysis of constitutional powers when it comes to the executive branch and ours. In his very strong rhetoric about cowardice, I would ask the representative, what have you done in the last 30 years to help our producers, whether they are our farm families, whether it's our manufacturers? What have you done for the working men and women of this country to actually gain access to other markets around the world with our friends? Very interesting. I come from an ag state. It's ag and manufacturing in Minnesota. Look, Donald Trump's the only one that is fighting for our farmers to have access to places like Canada, where they charge a 270% tariff on eggs, Jake. This is not about what Richie Neal wants it to be about, the rhetoric that he's spewing. This is about standing up for Americans and having fair. We want free trade, but President Trump wants it to be fair. Our people should be treated exactly the way we treat others.
But how rocky is this for the good people of Minnesota, given the fact that you export a great deal to Canada? And also
Mexico.
And Mexico. And the premier of Ontario was threatening to cut off electricity to 3 states, and I can't help but notice one of them is Minnesota. I mean, you guys are really in the middle of this.
Well, that would be a mistake by the premier. I understand that it's getting a little emotional, and we should probably dial that back on both sides. But the problem with that is this is what Donald Trump campaigned on. We've had 30-plus years of others, our friends, our trading partners that are supposed to be our allies, taking advantage of Americans by making sure they have full and fair access to American U.S. markets, but they're not providing that to our producers. Donald Trump said this is what he was going to do, and if the Canadians do something like that, they're literally just playing into what he said. In other words, they don't care about you. I'm the only one fighting for you. And what happens? I think this is a tough time for all of us. There's a lot of change going on, and there's a lot of change that America wants. Nobody said it was going to be easy, but I'm a true believer that once we get through this, it's going to be better for everybody.
Majority Whip Tom Emmer from the Great Lakes State, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate it. A land of 10,000 lakes, Minnesota. Breaking news.